call the meeting to order. And I'd like to advise all present that an audio recording is being made of this meeting and that all persons attending the meeting are to be respectful of and considerate towards other persons attending the meeting. Language and conduct at the meeting that could be perceived as offensive, defamatory or threatening to a person attending the meeting or listening to the recording is not acceptable. And for the purpose of this recording, elected members should wait for the chairperson to announce them before speaking. I would like to go with what we've done in the past, which is please raise your hand, and so I will collate the names in order and call you up as we go. I also request that all mobile devices be either turned off or put to silent. I'll note present today we have Councillor Bill Harvey, Councillor Ryan Posselt, Councillor Mike Dutter, Councillor Ben Lohberger, Alderman Marty Zuko, Councillor Louise Elliott and Councillor John Kelly, and myself, Alderman Louise Bloomfield. We do have a leave of absence for the Lord Mayor, and we have an apology for Councillor Gemma Kitsos. Are there any other leave of absences or apologies? No? Okay. I'll move to acknowledgement of country. In recognition of the deep history and culture of this place, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which the City of Hobart was built. I recognise the value of continuing Aboriginal knowledge and cultural practice and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. I would like a confirmation of minutes, please. Councillor Dutter, and seconded by... Don't need a seconder. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. So we have consideration of supplementary items. Are there any?
No.
No. Any indications tonight of conflicts of interest? No? Okay. I believe we have a request for a transfer of item of moving 7.1 Safer Hobart Program Workshop to the front due to attendance today. Could I have someone to please move? Thank you, Councillor Lohberger.
Chair, can I just speak against that? That's okay.
We have 2 people in attendance today who actually have to leave early, including...
I understand.
I would have thought that police officers would actually have some standing in our room. But I'm happy to have debate on that if you so move. But for the moment, what we'll do is we'll have... we've got 1 person against for the moment. Do we go to debate on that? I suppose we do. So the first thing would be, so do you want to speak against the motion?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say that the short stay, the change of council meeting time frame and the short stay bill will only be short items. And the first item for workshopping is the Safer Hobart program. So my preference would be to get through the very quick business at the start as listed and then move on. That's all.
Yep. Oh, I'd like to announce too that we have Deputy Lord Mayor Councillor Shaw with us as well. Okay, are there any speakers against this motion? I mean, for this motion, sorry.
Right.
Yes?
I think we should afford our hard-working policemen and professional people with a shorter time courtesy of bringing that agenda item forward. There's absolutely no reason in the whole wide world we can't do it. We can't anticipate how long any items are going. We consistently think that some items will be a couple of minutes, they can blow out to 30 minutes. So really I find this a little bit embarrassing. We're sitting here even arguing this.
Yeah. Any other further commentary to be made on this motion? Oh, yes, Councillor Dutter.
Chair, I think it is the right of a elected member to voice their opinion, and it is not an embarrassment. This is healthy debate to have, and I appreciate that we can hold different opinions. Now, if it is going to take only 5 or 10 minutes, then it's fine. But I'm not too aware of the fact as to how long the officers have. You know, if it's going to go. I mean, as the councillor has suggested, the first item is not going to take too long at all. It's the second one, it might take a little longer, the second one. So I'm quite prepared to listen to the discussion and debate before I vote. Thank you.
I would like to point out that I have been told that there is a deadline of 4:45, which is only 45 minutes to get through to the end of the workshop as well, which is why this has been asked to be put forward. Alderman Zuko.
I don't see what the big deal is here. We debate debating and discussing nothing. Madam Chair, please get on with the meeting, please.
Are you putting the motion?
Put the motion. Just.
Okay, those in favour of putting the motion?
Aye.
Those against? Okay, so we'll have the voting now. Those in favour of the motion to move this item forward?
Aye.
Those against? So thank you. The motion is carried. The item will now move forward. So we'll go direct to item 7.1, which is the Safer Hobart program. Thank you so much. I know that we have two speakers, but you're aware of that now, so thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Elected members may remember that in October we brought this first draft of this report to workshop. We looked at the proposal for a Safer Hobart officer program. At that last workshop, we've received a lot of feedback. We've taken all that feedback that we received from elected members at that point in time and reworked the report. In some areas we've addressed concerns, other areas we've added points to the report that will be discussed tonight. So I'll hand over to Ty to talk through the Safer Hobart program what's being proposed at this point in time.
Good afternoon, my name is Ty Gavin. I'm the Project Manager for Safe City for the City of Hobart. I started my role in September 2025 after 25 years of policing experience across the Northern Territory and Tasmania Police. This presentation is about proposing a Safer Hobart program, which the initiative is around enhancing community safety and engagement across the Hobart CBD and public spaces, with the focus on the CBD. The purposes of this presentation is to seek some feedback from you and potentially endorsement for the establishment of this program. The program revolves around other allocations of positions that are currently being filled. The initiative aligns with the City of Hobart's strategic commitments under the Capital City Strategic Plan of 2023 and the Hobart Community Vision, which emphasises wellbeing, resilience and public safety. By supporting this program, the Council will fill a critical gap in its current servicing delivery model, ensuring that a structured and achievable mechanism to meet community expectations and strengthening Hobart's reputation as a safe, inclusive and welcoming city. So why we need action now? Hobart CBD faces persistent challenges that directly impact perceptions of safety and community wellbeing. These are quite well known and they're spoken about daily. These include antisocial behaviour, youth offending, rough sleeping related vulnerability, property damage and safety concerns by retailers. These issues undermine business confidence and discourage public engagement in city spaces. While Tasmania Police provide targeted patrols, their intelligent-led policing also leaves gaps in day-to-day visibility and early intervention. Feedback from stakeholders, including Tasmania Police, the Safer Hobart Alliance, local businesses and community service providers, have consistently called for a visible, approachable and proactive council presence to complement existing measures like CCTV and contractor security that we engage. Current investments in CCTV infrastructure and security services, while they are valuable, do not provide the continuous relationship-based engagement that are required to address underlying issues, to connect vulnerable individuals to support services. There's a growing expectation for the Council to do more in this role of public safety, and it underscores the urgency of implementing officers to be doing this direct sort of role. In relation to our existing functions and what our missing capabilities are, currently the City of Hobart invests in CCTV monitoring, some contracted security patrols. We also engage in compliance enforcement and project-based business engagement. I just wanted to speak briefly about the contracted security because there's some misconceptions around the money that's spent on that. The majority of money that is spent on security services is around what we are required to do for our amenities in relation to lock-up and unlock, also our alarm monitoring type systems, and there's minimal actual investment, but a few things where we invest in actual security to do security-related roles. They are in around the Argyle Street, Wellington Walk sort of area on a limited patrol service, and also our late night partnership for Friday and Saturday nights down at the Salamanca area to encourage community safety. While these services contribute to safety, they're reactive, fragmented, and lack the continuous presence that are needed for a proactive engagement. CCTV identifies incidents but cannot intervene or reassure the public. Contracted security is often ad hoc and task specific, and there's no capacity for relationship building or early intervention. Parking and compliance officers operate under strict regulatory mandates and cannot absorb any specialised safety engagement functions. This result is a structural gap that the Council lacks a dedicated on-ground team focused on community reassurance, early de-escalation and referral to support services. The Safer Hobart program fills this gap by creating a unified team that bridges operational silos and strengthens partnerships and delivers a consistent, people-focused presence in public spaces. This approach ensures that the Council meets its obligations under Section 20 of the Local Government Act of 1993 to provide the health, safety and welfare of its community. So what we're talking about is repurposing current Council positions. These sit under the parking services, the economic and business development area and environmental health. These positions have been identified from their roles of community engagement and are combined to broaden or enhance their servicing with a community safety focus. Officers will be supervised by me as the project manager for Safe City and enable coordinated operations and clear accountability for them. The initial deployment would focus on the Hobart CBD with its potential expansion based on evidence and need. The program emphasises customer service, business reassurance and community engagement, providing a visible council presence and complements policing and security measures. They support high-density parking locations of the Argyle Street and Centrepoint car parks. They monitor commitments to smoke-free Hobart. They engage with local businesses to identify current community needs and provide reassurance of support. And they also support council compliance staff with ongoing education and monitoring of permits or bylaws. Officers would operate under an educate, engage and referral model, prioritising non-confrontational interactions and proactive problem solving. When we're talking about an educate, engage and refer model, what we're talking about is educating by raising awareness about local bylaws, smoke-free areas and public expectations through a supportive communication rather than punitive enforcement. The engagement comes where we focus on building trust through a visible, approachable presence that reassures businesses and the community while also addressing low-level security concerns before they escalate. Referring talks about ensuring that vulnerable individuals, where they're identified, are referred or connected to appropriate support services in real time. Staff will document these interactions and referral pathways and generate data that will inform further council strategy and also advocate for systemic improvements. The model aligns with council values and mitigates risks associated with over-policing or criminalising vulnerability. It prioritises education and engagement and fosters positive relationships, reduces harm, enhances Hobart's reputation as a safe and inclusive city. So why it will work? The concept of what we're proposing is talking about routine activity theory of sociologists Marcus Felsen and Lawrence Cohen. The theory is that crime and harm most often occur when three elements converge. These are a motivated offender, a suitable target, and the absence of a capable guardian. The Safer Hobart program introduces a consistent, visible guardian into Hobart's public spaces. It disrupts the convergence and reduces opportunities for harm. By providing a proactive engagement and early intervention, the program addresses issues before they escalate into criminal behaviour or community disruption. Staff act as an approachable guardian who reassures the public, supports vulnerable individuals and maintains situational awareness of the surrounding environment. The presence not only deters antisocial behaviour but also strengthens perceptions of safety, encouraging economic activity and community participation. The staff will be out there and they are one of the community as well. In fact, the first element of use of force by police is the actual presence itself of police officers. In relation to the role, it's really important that we have clear roles, responsibilities and KPIs to ensure success. This needs to be communicated to the community clearly so that City of Hobart staff are aware of their responsibilities and where other agency partners have responsibility for community safety. It involves clear data collection and recording through key performance indicators. Over time, this data will assist in determining program adjustment or identify areas of improvement. Some of those KPIs include making sure that we're working with perceptions of safety surveys, what sort of referral pathways data we receive, what the service demand trends are, engaging with our stakeholders to get feedback, making sure businesses are happy with what we're supplying, and how many compliance-related engagements we deal with, as well as the smoke-free activity. What a day-to-day might look like, and this isn't set in stone, is that I expect that they would follow established patrol routes within the Hobart CBD, informed by community safety hotspots and locations where people report feeling least safe. They engage proactively with business owners and staff to provide reassurance, support and visible council presence. They gather real-time information of emerging community safety issues. They engage respectfully with the community members who appear vulnerable or at risk, using their soft skills approach, trauma-informed approaches and understand individual circumstances. They identify further support needs and they will have extensive knowledge of how they can refer people to external providers that might be available within the Hobart region. They'll undertake smoke-free education and engagement, providing information to community members and businesses about smoke-free requirements and monitoring compliance. They support business bylaws through education and engagement with the focus on early guidance and relationship building. Regularly patrolling, identifying individuals who have remained in particular areas of the CBD for extended periods and initiate appropriate engagement where this aligns with community perceptions of safety. They will make referrals in the field where appropriate and escalate matters to Tasmania Police with their established protocols when required. And they'll ensure that all their engagements and referrals and observations are well recorded so that we have the data to take this further. This concept builds on the relationship with Tasmania Police. City of Hobart has an established collaborative relationship with Tasmania Police with regular engagement in various committees and police-led operations. At present, Council have no dedicated on-ground team for regular collaborative engagement. This new role will provide the opportunity for Council to work by arrangement with Tasmania Police organisational structure to target specific identified needs. With a flexible situation, this would mean that we could work with their youth engagement or diversion teams for a particular purpose. We can go and do general uniform policing, targeting the day-to-day needs that they might have. And we could also work with crime members of Tasmania Police, which might address issues with business crime and also provide that reassurance to them. The success of these engagements can then be considered to inform the program enhancement towards considering or building a successful co-response model. Considering a co-response model, there is no doubt that a development of a co-response model should be considered. Currently, Hobart City Council has very, very limited data to support where our specific needs are and what an effective model would look like. This current model is seen as a stepping stone to identify what a co-response model could look like. Currently, Council cannot reliably provide evidence of capability to support or sustain a co-response model, in my opinion. Through ongoing review of engagements and community feedback, the Safer Hobart program will continue to explore these alternative engagements and look to how we can enhance or provide a more extensive model of a co-response. What this would look like in a review process for year one is obviously was focused on establishment, what our workforce capability is and the development of baseline measures. We then will consider an extended probation for the officers involved or the staff involved to ensure that we have the right staff for the role. This includes setting initial benchmarks for community and business perceptions of safety, initiating consistent on-ground engagement and establishing robust reporting and data collection frameworks. Year 2, we focus on reviewing Year 1 outcomes and measuring changes against established baselines. This includes those perceptions of safety, engagement volumes and the referral outcomes. We'll use this evidence-based data to identify emerging issues, further service gaps and areas that might require enhanced response. This review will inform refinements to deployment needs. It will review our training and our operational focus, ensuring that the program remains responsive to community and business needs. Year 3, the program will undergo a much more comprehensive evaluation to assess its effectiveness, its value and its long-term sustainability. This includes consideration of the ongoing commitment or potential program adjustments and whether staff levels or service scope should be increased, reduced or reconfigured. So last of all, I guess I'm seeking your feedback for consideration and endorsement. Just before we go into discussion about it, I wanted to acknowledge the senior managers who have brought this concept to its current form. Nick Maguire, who is the Manager of Economic Development, Kimbra Parker, who is the Manager for Community Programs, Felicity Edwards, who is the Manager for Environmental Health, and my Director Ben Artup, who's the Community and Economic Development Director. Too often, staffing is considered in a silo mentality. These 3 roles are taken from each of those collaborating together, and it was brought by the managers thinking strategically where current roles with a common engagement theme could be utilised to not only complete their functions, but also to enhance council servicing to the wider community. Thank you.
Thank you.
And through the Chair, I forgot to mention at the beginning of my introduction tonight, we've got Inspector John Toohey here from Tas Police and Edward Johnson, who's the Chair of Business Greater Hobart as well.
So, there was anything further you wanted to
That's
add?
it.
No? Okay, so my understanding was that Inspector Toohey would be available for some questions from, is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Oh, and would you like to add your perspective as well to the project, given that you've participated in the, you might want to come up to the mic if that's all right. Yeah.
No worries, thank you for having me along. So the council, we have a great collaboration, which we do with lots of different things. So we've got the Hobart Safety Blitzes, we've got the Retail Crime Forums, we've got the Synergy for Safety events, we have ongoing meetings between ourselves and safety initiatives that are brought within the city, work with Kimbra and the people that I've mentioned previously. This concept is I know you've mentioned about co-response. That's something we couldn't commit to from a full-time perspective. We have designated people to the Hobart CBD on a permanent basis on a day shift and an afternoon shift. However, this is something just to sort of further enhance the safety of the community. During the discussions, they've spoken about the interstate examples, and I've heard some of the positive benefits that have come out of that. So. From a policing point of view, I can see some really good positives through there, and we will continue to do those joint initiatives that we currently do on a regular occasion. So that's pretty much just the short put forward from a police point of view.
Thank you. Are there any questions from elected members for Inspector Toohey? Okay, sorry, I've got Councillor Dudder first and then Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned about this concept. Where was the origin and the genesis of this concept?
That's probably not a question. So this is a council proposal, so I push that back to the council.
So the concept, how did we come to it? There was ongoing talk with the community team, and through some different managers, some positions of community engagement were identified where we could enhance what we were actually delivering. And where that came about was we would still go out and do the functions of those other areas, which was economic development, parking services and environmental health, and we would enhance those by being able to go and actually positively engage with businesses, with people of the members of the public, and with a focus on community safety, because that's obviously what a lot of people want to see, is how we are working with the community for community safety. the concepts of how we gather further data comes from actually from police practices of referral, where a lot of engagements with vulnerable people will receive some sort of referral. And the staff going out and engaging with those people and referring them also gives us a basis then to further lobby or other agencies for what responsibilities they might have. If we see young people who are in town during the week, why aren't they at school? Why we'll engage with the education department about those issues. When we build up a lot of data about lots of young people that might be in the CBD and not going to school, that becomes a problem. That becomes something that then the education department should really consider to actually then focus on doing something about that. It's not about us taking, the Hobart City Council taking responsibility for it. It's about us making sure that the voices of the community are heard, and it's reinforced through referrals that we would create and put forward.
And Councillor Harvey, and then Councillor Hobart.
Yeah, thanks, Ty. Great presentation. I really enjoyed that. A lot of information in there. So we've got 2 case studies, City of Melbourne and also Perth.
Yes.
What are the learnings from those 2 case studies? Or anyone, if you want to add to that as well, if you've
I'll let you go with the case studies. Just give those points first.
So obviously there's 2 quite different models. The City of Perth looks more at that referral and engagement type pathway as well. But they also do some other roles of enforcement or how they would enforce bylaw type issues through a ranger type system. In the City of Melbourne is a lot more targeting the antisocial behaviour and becomes a lot more of a hands-on type approach. For our size of a city, there would be a lot more investment required there for the staffing, and there is also then more risk that gets taken on by us by putting staff into that sort of position. I'd like to take a more softer engagement focus, but we need to build capability. If it is that we look at a model like the City of Melbourne, where they're more heavily trained in more like direct engagement, then we can look at that. But at the moment, the reality is we don't have the data one way or the other for what we could do. We also then need to build that capability, because at the moment we don't have the staff to go and do that direct engagement, and there's a lot of training that would come along with that. Advanced training of empty hand tactics, and just your general safety principles that, again, there's a strong risk associated with that. It's not impossible, but it would need a lot more considered how we get there. As I said, I think the biggest factor of this one is that it's a stepping stone, because we could very much look at that, but we really have minimal evidence about how or what we could capably do that at the moment.
So with the 2 examples, how long have they been running, and has there been a review of those programs?
So I understand
that's available to you. I don't necessarily need to see it, but
yes. I understand the City of Melbourne one has only really just come online since about October last year, so there wouldn't be a lot of evidence around that, and I haven't actually seen any. I don't think there is any current reporting. I think they were going to report at 6 months, and I don't think we're there yet for that one to come.
Okay, so we're all kind of starting around the same time here, by the sounds.
Yeah, obviously the City of Perth has the more ranger type setup, which is going to be similar to what we would do. Again, even looking at the ranger type setup, there are functions that we have other areas of our council already doing as well. So this one is we're focusing on the things that are in the proposal for now, and we'll report on how well they go. Whether or not we can use other areas of that to go more towards a ranger role, which includes the dog enforcement and things like that. It could be built up in that way, but we need to build evidence one way or the other.
Look, thanks.
And I don't have much evidence about. I think that's well received. The Perth Ranger model. We need to build our own evidence of what our own needs are. That's my belief.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've got Councillor Lohberger and then Alderman Zuko. Now, these need to be questions for the
Yes, thank you,
Inspector
Chair. I think
Toohey.
mine will hopefully draw Inspector Toohey in and give him something to do with his trip here. Look, I've been around Hobart for a long time, all my life really, and there's been a number of issues that the city's had to face up to with security. So it's just sort of thinking back to Morley's, who was then sort of chased out of the mall and became a problem at Franklin Square. From memory, the police did a lot of heavy patrolling in Franklin Square, especially at night, and sort of dealt with that problem. The more recent problem's been violent assaults at Salamanca, and there's been some specific reactions to that as well from the council and charities and the police. But the issue nowadays does seem to be, for want of a better word, I'll say it, echés. So these gangs of smaller children, teenagers, who don't seem to have any respect for authority, no matter who's delivering it, whether it's you guys or our guys. I guess given that they are the issue at the moment, we've had lots of issues in the bus malls, issues at Wellington Walk, and it all seems to be related to this group. I guess I'd really like to know how our team will deal with that, those particular individuals when they are causing problems, and also how the police deal with it. I've seen you guys dealing with it, and often you will pull someone out and be dealing with them, and the whole other group will just stand off 20 metres away and abuse you guys. They just have not a lot of respect. So the whole sort of engage and educate and refer model, I just wonder how it's going to work with these guys, given that in my opinion, they're the number one sort of motivator in a lot of people's minds for the need for an enhanced service in the city. So, good luck with
You go there. So with Tasmania, and this is Tasmanian wide, just not Hobart, so the most recent stats, so we're talking 18 months ago from a youth point of view, 59 youths committed 50% of the offences from youth crime. So a very small cohort of people are the same people I deal with day in, day out, and yes, they're an issue. We talk about referrals. You talk about shoplifting, for example. So there's an online platform called Aura, which a lot of the major retailers use. They only report to police about 14% of what actually occurs. So they're getting away with 86 out of every 100 they're committing that are actually not being reported to police, and we're not putting them before the court. This concept I see here, and we can sort of go, make sure you report the antisocial behaviour, and often I hear, you know what, we're having problems in this area, having problems in that area, and I look at our system and there's no reports. So having the eyes on the ground and having the people that are around that can see these things, that can refer these things, so therefore we can take better actions against these individuals. So we're not just putting them before the court for one thing here, another thing here. It's about actually, you know what, they're identified, and as I said, there's a small cohort of people. The group would get to know them very, very quickly about who's who, and that collaboration and the sharing the information and where the problem issues are, and we can redirect our services to where the hotspots are, if using that term. So that's one way that I think this system will work really, really well, because not only, and everyone says, oh, they go to court, they get nothing and all that sort of stuff. That's out of my hands. All I can focus on is what I can do, and from a policing point of view, and I've identified it from a shoplifting point of view, is about how do we better present that to the court so we get better outcomes. So it's about making sure that we're putting people before the court for what they're doing, because currently they do a lot of things that aren't observed, that aren't reported, that aren't referred, whereas this sort of concept will help support that, because we will get, and I'll use a couple of examples where, and sorry, I go to shoplifting a lot, but these are the same people causing the antisocial behaviour. They're exactly the same people. Had one youth, he committed, there was 36 different matters over a 6-week period. We had 2 that had been reported to police. So 2 out of 36 had actually been reported to us. So what we actually did is I said, hang on, there's 36 reports. We proactively went out and got the 36 reports, and then we went and charged the person. So instead of charging them with the 2 reports that had been made to us, which would have been 2 counts of stealing with $15.60 worth of product, we charged them in the end. There was 50 different charges with over $3,000 worth of product. So it's about better presenting to the court. So it's about that better collaboration, sort of the referrals, the processes, the issues, because the same people doing the shoplifting are the same people that are causing the antisocial behaviour. They're the same people that are stealing the bikes. They're the same people stealing the motorbikes. Tassie's, the advantage is that small cohort of people, and we need to do better about how we're presenting it to the court so we get those better results. And this referral system just helps support that, because as I said, People will always tell me there's an issue in a certain place, but when I look at our referrals or our contacts, there's actually none in that area. So this concept would be good.
Sure. No, thank you for that. Probably the supplementary question is how are our council guys going to deal with these really disrespectful youths who are probably not going to listen to anything that we've got to say to them?
Look, obviously some of that comes down to relationship building, and some of it is that you can't build the relationships with them. We have existing stakeholders that we engage with, like JCP, who provide a lot of youth services within the CBD. We'll work closely with them about what support they might be able to supply our officers. And I guess our officers, their role is to identify what those support networks are outside of just the police. So what other things are available to them to be able to refer. I think one of the important things as well with what John was talking about is that a lot of the time when you see these things happening, most people in the public will think, well, what can I do? Should I actually do something? Or what do I do if I'm going to, who am I going to report it to? So these officers, that's their role, is to escalate it in some way or another. It might be that they're harassing the police radio room a little bit with some of their calls about things that they're observing or seeing. But with that, it's important because a lot of the time it won't get reported early to the police. They'd rather get there early and deal with it early and deal with problems that are happening before it escalates into something more serious, or all of a sudden it's 10 businesses that they've gone in and harassed, rather than, okay, they're in town now, we know they're in town now, can you get someone to come and have a look at this? And that's through that relationship with Tasmania Police that we would have.
Just got maybe one more question, if that's okay.
Yep.
Just moving on. Just around, are we satisfied that these guys, our guys, are going to have the training to be able to withstand the kind of treatment they're potentially going to receive?
That's obviously
before the police arrive.
That's really important to me, and
Yeah,
coming from my background. And I acknowledge that there is a risk for them going out there. And my advice will be that we are not getting in a confrontational situation. That's not our role. We are out there as a member of the public and a guardian, but they do not need to physically intervene. That needs to be done through the contacting police, but it also needs to be done through early intervention and building those relationships. I think the important part as well was, with what John was saying, we need to build evidence for other agencies to come and do. If there's these young people and they're the same 59 people, why aren't other agencies actively doing something about those same 59 people? And sometimes that comes back to how many reports are put in, and we are just adding to that, and we can then also lobby on behalf, as the City of Hobart Council, that this is an issue happening for us, these are the problems that we're facing. So it gives us extra leverage to advocate that as well.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Inspector.
Mizuko.
I just want to make a couple of comments first, then I'm going to ask some questions. I've been heavily involved with street kids and working with people on the streets since the early 90s. I actually employed over a dozen street kids in my time, working with organisations like the Salvation Army and Co and our own street workers. I've walked the streets of Melbourne with the Salvation Army and a number of other organisations. I've walked the streets of Hobart. I see in the city during the day what happens, especially in Wellington Walk and other areas. I'm not being disrespectful to any person that wears a uniform, but I've got so much more respect for a police officer because I have seen 2 or 3 security guards arguing with these kids, right, and getting nowhere. Absolutely getting nowhere. Now, I understand what we're trying to do here, or achieve, right? But surely we're going to go down the pathway of training people whereby we've got the Salvation Army, which is on the streets at night, dealing with probably the worst of the worst. Surely we can look at an organisation like that if we want this conduit situation where we want someone to talk to these kids in a manner. Surely we could be looking at the Salvation Army and extending their role in our city during the day, because they're doing it at night most of the time anyway. So what we're going to be doing is placing potentially untrained people, even if they're fully trained, council officers on the street to deal with this scum. Sorry, they're scum, right? And I just can see us going down the pathway of one after another of stress leave and more and more. Now, as I say, I totally respect the Tasmania Police. There's a difference between Tasmania Police and a person wearing a vest or anything. Now, I travel Europe extensively, and I've been advocating this for years. If we are going down the pathway of having a person walking the streets with some badge and a vest and all of a sudden on this conduit, aren't we far better off going down the pathway of extending our camera system and having these people monitoring these cameras and then reporting to police, because that's what they want, and then you've got it on video. If it's 3 or 4 people or $400,000, like has anyone seen the Melbourne system, the Melbourne City Council system? I've seen it. That is what we want. We want a similar Melbourne City Council where the people that are monitoring this ring the police and say that corner. Then they can monitor and speak to the police on the way and keep on saying where that person's going. I really feel uncomfortable putting people on the street with limited training to act as pseudo godfathers. Sorry. I didn't ask a question. I just find this a waste of time. Sorry. I apologise if I didn't ask the question.
Councillor.
Thank you. I was hoping to hear what will the day-to-day communication between this new potential staff and the police look like? I think you mentioned before, Ty, about according to the radio room. I would hope that we'd have some sort of direct link, some sort of faster, more instant communication, or will it be that these safer Hobart people call 131 444 or whatever it is? What was it? How will the police and these people communicate?
Look, obviously we're not there yet with exactly how they do their day-to-day business, and that's something we need to work out. However, I can see one issue is we could arrange for them to be able to contact whoever is on duty, as in the shift sergeant who might be in charge at the time, but then that avoids that contingency of going through the radio room. So it's important that it does actually go through the radio room in the first instance. But through our relationship building, I would expect that we would have those more direct lines of communication with the police. Again, I'm not sure on, do we do it once a week and say this is what our planned activities are for a week, or do we do a daily check-in? These are all sort of strategic with how we actually would do that. I think the other important thing though is that it's not just about the police coming out and doing their role, but it's other areas as well, not just the police. And I know what you're saying about how do we get the police engaged with us, and I think we would work out a way that we would have a more direct contact, but it might be the case that we're going into 131 444 because it needs to be recorded and documented through that process as well, and a job logged. Because if we're not logging jobs, then there's no, there may be no record of what it is, the engagement. So.
Yeah, and part of me can understand the rationale of going through the radio room for that tracking purposes, but would the police protocols enable there to be, direct phone numbers between the two? Because I would hope that if we were investing in something like this, that it would mean that these Safer Hobart officers have some sort of advantage that the everyday person on the street wouldn't. So the everyday person on the street, if they see someone being assaulted, they could ring up the police radio room. But I would hope that these people would have a direct line to get a more instant response. Or
it would be a direct, and as Ty said, we'd have to look at it, but in the initial phase it would be through the radio room, because as we said, it was about documenting the job, getting that evidence and creating, and then there'd be further conversations down the line about the operational sort of arm of it. But to commence with, it would be the radio room would be what I would envisage at the start with, but there wouldn't be a direct line that they would ring, it would be the normal line. But if they're in an emergency situation, then they've still got O as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. All right. And that Aurora system, I've never heard of that. And that sounds. So is that something that police operates?
No. Aurora is a private company. There's about 83% of major retailers use it. They use it for their stock loss and loss prevention. So that's
So businesses have to sign up and pay a
yes.
registration. Okay, all right. And do you know what percentage of retailers, mainly, I guess, actually in Hobart use or aware of
I
it?
don't know the exact number in Hobart, but when you talk about your major retailers, as I said, about 83% of it use it. So your Coles, Woolies,
So the big, super big ones
the
do?
big ones do, yes.
Okay.
Okay, sorry to cut everything short for everyone.
That's all right.
I understand you have a
It's all right, I've
4:45
got a couple more
deadline.
minutes if you need.
And I know that Councillor Kelly wanted to ask some
That's
questions.
fine.
Yeah, thanks for the report. Yeah, look, there's a lot to like about this. I'll take other comments on the other side of the fence too. So it's, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I could say that it was treating the symptoms, not the cause here, but look, that's a bigger conversation than what we're here to do and talk about. Question, has there been with smaller retailers around, is there some interaction with them, with a process for them to be first responders and how they do reports or deal with troubled people or anything like that? Has there been any initiative for the small traders?
Okay, so we have the Hobart Retailer Safety and Retail Crime Forum that we have. We also have the Safer Alliance meeting. So part of the topic in the last forum and also in the next forum, which is coming up on the 31st of March, is about reporting to police. So we do share that information about what's the best way to report, what you should do, what you should record. So for those people, and that invite is sent out far and wide. It goes out to all the businesses within the City of Hobart directory. So that invite does go out there to share that information out. So there is some information goes out about that.
Is there a big take up from the traders?
So we had 100 people at the first forum, and then we had just shy of 70 at the second forum.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. There's a lot to take on board and I look forward to progressing with the whole concept. But yeah.
Could I just add something with what John said and the officers going out, doing what they do? This is also an opportunity for us to reinforce those the messaging that comes out from Tasmania Police. So they might not have been able to attend one of those, those retail forums and so forth, but our staff will also be trained in what's available and those concepts, and we'll be reinforcing those, supporting what the police are putting out there. Because that's our role as the City of Hobart Council, to also be pushing that same messaging out and consistent messaging about what's available and what to do in those sort of situations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for being able to attend today. It's really appreciated.
No problems at all. And if you do have any questions outside of here, I'm happy for you to email me if you're happy to share it in the meeting notes. That's fine.
No,
Or through the CEO. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Tom.
The Chair of the Federation of Greater Hobart Business, Edwin Johnson, was going to make a small deputation as well if you wanted to come up to the table. In context, Edwin is also a member of the Safety Alliance, the same as what Inspector Tui is. So he was basically going to share some of the points of view from the small business component of that room.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, councillors, for the opportunity for the deputation today. I'm here on behalf of Business Greater Hobart and the many businesses, large and small, that operate in the CBD. Through my role as Chair of Business Greater Hobart, and as also part of the Safe Hobart Alliance. As we know, the Alliance brings together groups and traders, council, police, state government partners. So we've got the Mental Health Reform Program, Youth Justice Reform, Task Force and community organisations. Through the Alliance, we all work collaboratively with the aim of improving public safety and reducing antisocial behaviour in the Hobart City. I'm here today to speak clearly and firmly in support of the installation of dedicated safety officers in the CBD. For several years now, Hobart's business community has been deeply distressed by escalating shoplifting and antisocial behaviour and the growing number of complex social issues that are playing out in our public spaces. So I can't put this too lightly. These issues affect staff safety, customer confidence and the viability of businesses that are simply trying to trade respectfully and legally. Now, businesses have done what they always do when faced with difficult circumstances, they do try to manage the problems themselves. There's informal communication between the smaller shops, and this has helped reduce harm and protect customers, and also it does improve importing to police where appropriate. But this system hasn't been perfect, and it's an unsupported workaround. It's not a solution. We need a more viable mechanism for coordination and early intervention. We need a visible reassurance in the city. We have seen an increase in Tasmanian police patrols, and police play an essential role, but to say that all we need is more police misses the broader point of what makes our city safe. A safer city is not achieved through enforcement alone. So the Safer Hobart Alliance exists precisely because safety requires a coordinated, compassionate and practical response across multiple sectors. Over a number of years, businesses have engaged in good faith through council-led safety committees and discussions, and while well-intentioned, these processes have not delivered tangible outcomes on the ground. Now we have a proposal that could deliver better outcomes. This is the first initiative that the business community has seen that is structured and evidence-driven and grounded in the realities of what's happening in the CBD. So it's focusing on presence, visibility, coordination and early intervention, managing issues before they escalate. So it's a word that hasn't been mentioned too much, but this is about de-escalation. We want to nip the problems in the bud before they happen. So businesses want a peaceful place to trade, and they welcome respectful, humane engagement with people that are struggling in the city. Well, there are people that are struggling in the city but need help. I don't think anyone that comes into our city, whether they've got problems, whether they are doing the wrong thing, I don't think any of those people are scum. They're people who need help. A safe, calm and well-managed city centre benefits everyone: businesses, workers, residents, visitors and those doing it tough. This proposal gives Hobart the opportunity to lead with backbone and with heart. In closing, while no measure is a silver bullet, this program will hopefully provide a more consistent presence for businesses and the community, helping Hobart streets feel safer and more welcoming. I urge the Council to move beyond this discussion and implement this initiative. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Edwin tonight? Councillor Dutton.
Thank you, Edwin, for your presentation. Just listening to what was said, it appears that if I have heard it correctly and I'm interpreting it correctly, that there are 59 people, and these are the same people who are doing all this antisocial behaviour, whatever it is, however you may label it. Do you have any additional evidence apart from what we have heard from the police officer and our officers?
With more people than the 59, well, we've always got the opportunistic crime, or we've got the people hanging around, we've got the homeless people sleeping in the door. We don't need to call the police every 5 seconds for someone that needs help. So, So yeah, it's not just those 59 people. This program's bigger than those 59 people.
Any other questions for Edwin in the room? No? Well, thank you so much for being able to participate tonight. It's appreciated. Thank you. So we'll go to general discussion. Is there anything further to add tonight? No? Oh, sorry, I didn't. Sorry, I've got Councillor Posselt first and then Alderman Zuko.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, it would have been nice if we were informed that we had professional staff presenting and not just people in the audience when the decision to move this forward was brought. There was not enough information provided by the Chair. Secondly, this proposal still kind of is trying to do too much, I think. I think that it's still treading on multiple agencies' toes and jurisdictions, be that TASPOL, social work and community services and drug and alcohol services and people like the Red Cross and Vinnie's and all the people that are active in our city that provide social safety nets. I'm not sure and I'm not convinced about the role of this to build evidence that it's required. We have significant evidence, so much evidence that we can name the 56 individuals that are responsible for most of the problems in our CBD. And while TASPOL want us to provide more evidence for them to gather so they can, apparently according to Inspector Toohey, have more reports so that they can crush these people further in court with not just 3 charges but 25 charges because council has assisted the police in getting prosecution. It just feels like it's law enforcement. And the position description is for a essential qualification of Certificate 3 in community engagement. And we've met some of our community engagement people that work for council, and they're great at engaging with people, doing surveys and all the consultation stuff that we do. They're usually extroverts that are super person-focused, really personable, and they're great people. I just can't see that personality type with 3 or 4 weeks of training and no authority really having any success in the space that I think we want them to operate. So it takes me back to what I said the last time this was brought before council in workshop, which is that it needs to be in partnership with TASPOL or I don't think it's going to be effective. And I mean partnership, I don't mean our officers, as Councillor Elliott discovered, our officers have a phone and they dial the generic 000 number or the generic 1300 police number. It needs to be police officers in a team with our staff and probably with a social worker. If we want to do outreach and referrals, we heard commentary around finding out why these kids aren't in school and then making the education department do something about it. I mean, I don't think that's the education department's jurisdiction either to try and get 12-year-olds off the street and into school. These are mega complex problems and mega complex people. So if we're going to tackle it holistically, we need to take a holistic approach and work in conjunction in a multidisciplinary team with people that are actually qualified to deliver and or have the authority as TASPOL to deliver. I agree with everything Alderman Zuko said, except perhaps the scum comment, but pretty much the rest of it, I agree with. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Zuko.
And I'll emphasise my scum comment. I've actually witnessed these people, what they do and what they don't do. As we well know, there's 59 of them. Actually, I could probably narrow it down to about 9 of them who are really the worst of the worst. Because as we well know, some of them just follow others and do what others do. They are low. I've seen it and I've watched it. And I've got to say I really felt sorry quite a number of times for some of those people that are trying to deal with these, in particular those security guards. And these security guards were not just small, these were very large-sized security guards who could probably handle themselves. I believe that if we're going to go down this pathway, as Councillor Consultant, this is totally off the show, said, we need people on the ground that know what they're doing and know what they're saying. I remember the days when we had 3 street workers on our streets. They knew how to speak to these young people and deal with them. I don't know what we're planning to do with safety officers who have got a few hours training, I'll just say a few hours training on how to deal with a situation. We've got people on the streets that are experienced and dealing with this on a regular basis. Now, if we want it to be reporting to police, increase our cameras on the street and have these people in a booth having a look at looking at the street. Can I ask this question? What's the intent of the actual box of the CBD they're going to cover?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite.
The scope, the area.
Where are they going to
Where
patrol?
are they going to patrol in the CBD?
So just again, it's a stepping stone. So we've got to build and show where our demand is. At the moment, the demand is in the CBD. You're talking about the mall, you're talking about the bus mall, you're talking about Franklin Square, you're talking about Wellington Walk, you're talking about Centre Point, and then those surrounding CBD streets. Can I just touch on the CCTV in that this role will have an involvement in the CCTV side of things. How exactly we work that will need to be established when we develop what their operational rollout is. But the other side of that is the actual CCTV and developing our network that also actually is under me. But that's a separate conversation in my mind, because there are other avenues or thoughts on how we can enhance or improve that system that are outside of what we're talking about with this. There's no cost saving that lets us spend more money on the CCTV in my mind. This is for us supporting other things that we have, and we will deal with the CCTV through other avenues of finance or whatever that we can identify is a need for CCTV. Because there's lots of technologies that are coming out with that. You look at the City of Melbourne. So for me, there's sort of two issues, because we can continue to develop our CCTV, that's another thing. This is about these roles and how they will be utilising that CCTV network. How it's effective is something we need to explore.
Look, you've mentioned a number of sites. And again, I would say if they are the concerns, if we had more CCTV in that area and people monitoring, then we could be contacting Tas Police, the Salvation Army, or whoever else to try and get there and actually allow people who are experienced at what they're doing to deal with it. The police for the policing, right? The Salvation Army that do such a wonderful job, and all the other outreach people, getting those involved in the situation. You know what I fear? I fear that one of our staff who's got the safety vest on, the yellow vest, is going to be walking the streets and be a target. That's what my concern is. And I can foresee that no matter how many people we put there, they're going to be undermanned, undertrained. We need people who know what they're doing on the street. Police know what they're doing. One of the things that I pushed for years, if we want to go down the pathway of this, why don't we go down the pathway of actually having municipal police put back on the beat, like other cities do around the world? The Hobart City Council had the police force. Let's get people fully trained, not only in policing, but also in the social aspects of it and everything like that. Look, to me, we're going to be putting people out to slaughter. We need people who know what they're doing. I'm not saying that they're not going to eventually get there, but having more cameras there where we can notify the relative people who know what they're doing, how to deal with it, get there, is far better as far as I'm concerned. Right?
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we've got a few people. I'm going to write them down. John Kelly and I think it was Dada and Michelle and then Elliot. Okay, so I haven't spoken at all. I just wanted to quickly speak because I'd like to contribute tonight, if you don't mind. Basically, the first thing, I had a few questions. One is we've consistently been quite derogatory tonight about the training, but there's quite a bit of training involved in this, isn't there? This is not something you do 3 weeks. This is, these people would also come in with initial training before you even got them. Like, what's your expectation of that?
I guess the biggest issue that I have at the moment is I don't know what sort of staff we are going to attract. And I guess as my role, being the program manager, will be a big part in actually recruiting those staff. And I'm well aware of some of those concerns or needs that might be required, and I'm also very well aware of the risk that we're potentially putting on the staff to go and put into that position. I'm really stringent on that it's not an engagement role where we can't go and do that, because that puts too much risk for our staff. If it's too much for them to handle, they need to be like a normal citizen and contact the police and observe and do what they need to do from that. They may well be targeted, but they're going to be better resourced and better capable of actually being able to report those things and report those things professionally through where they need to report them. Obviously that comes down to what training they receive. We'll give them training in de-escalation, like quality training from an external provider. We'll be making sure that they're informed in trauma-informed education and de-escalation techniques. It's really important that if they're not trained properly, I don't want to put them out on the street because there is a risk there involved with the sort of work that they're going to do. I think it's really important these aren't security guards that we're putting out there. These are staff for the Hobart City Council who are engaging with the public, and they're also going to be out there supporting the community through the networks that we have and putting people in contact with the people that they need to be in contact with.
Thank you. Okay, and with the CCTV, my understanding was that there was already connections to the police and so forth anyway, so that's nothing new. And I think the only real deficit is that we don't necessarily have full-time people being able to access. That'd be about correct, wouldn't it? The resource is consistent, continuous, it's just that it's not necessarily fully...
So we actually do provide a full-time feed to the Tasmanian Police already, which is accessible in their main muster room. So they are able to access that 24 hours a day at the moment. Us providing staff to monitor some of that, which some of this role will potentially be, and we'll navigate how effective that might be. The biggest issue around monitoring CCTV and observing CCTV is that they might observe it. You then need to get someone to respond. The only people we've got to then respond to it is Tasmania Police or someone external. We actually can't go and directly engage with it in the first instance. If we've got staff that we can go and directly engage with it, that might have a different outcome, or we might be better guided with where that person, the need is better directed. In relation to reporting things to Tasmania Police, we might be able to observe things, but it's only when something, more than likely it's already been reported by the time we observe it on the CCTV. You're not going to report some sort of suspicious behaviour to the police because they're not going to attend. That's what my biggest issue is with the CCTV and monitoring it. It can definitely be explored further because we will have staff to explore utilising it in that aspect.
Thank you. And the other thing was too, like, it was interesting the commentary tonight too about, you know, Hobart City Council being considered law enforcement, except I would have thought we already were. We already enforce things like planning law and we have our own bylaws and so forth. So we're already consistently always applying law enforcement of some description. The fact that we're actually simply, not annexing, we're accentuating police law enforcement, I wouldn't have thought would be far from the tree. And my understanding too was that the police have actively attempted, from when we've been doing the safety alliance groups, is that they've been wanting to get the traders to report more, simply because they don't really want to go to court for 2, they want to go to court for 36 and 50 and so forth, because then they actually get a real outcome and suddenly they've managed to clear the fields and actually improve the city for the traders themselves. More importantly, one of the reasons why Edwin chose to turn up tonight was predominantly because we kind of forget why we're doing this. We're doing this not just for the average Joe on the street who wants to be a customer, but we're also the people who are stuck there. They can't move. They're in a shop. They work there. We need to actually somehow provide a better environment. So I've looked at that from that point of view as well. And the other thing is too, don't forget too, that the Safety Alliance also has the Department of Justice in attendance, and this actually went past them as well. The other weird thing that I'm finding with a lot of what we're discussing too is getting very operational. I don't know whether any of us really in this room have the skill set to understand what it requires to get this training done, the number of years, the types of tickets they require and so forth. Possibly Councillor Possop, I know some of them because of what he does for a living. But I worry that some of our discussion's gone a little bit operational from that as well. They're just the things I wanted to add tonight. So now I've got back to Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, just the qualification side of thing, I'm just looking at the security officer qualification. It's got a certificate 3, isn't it, or 2 or something. I just might have thought that you mentioned there that, oh, you just got to see who's coming in the door to apply that. I mean, I would have thought that the role would be set in stone as far as what qualifications, there's the job, these are the qualifications, and everything else dressed up about you know, the whole job description statement, conditions of service, wage, everything else, instead of making it up as we go. Is there a rock solid one that we can absolutely cover our backside on with stress and trauma and all the things that go associated with these things? Because I would have just hoped that it would be more than a security 2, level 2, or a level 2 type of qualification. Once again, I don't know that, and that's hence my question in summary. Is there a qualification we're absolutely sticking to and that we've researched thoroughly to make sure we've got this covered?
We've developed a job description that doesn't say that we can't adjust some of those job description criteria for essential or desirable criteria. And it might well be that we are better suited with some of the suggestions of members to broaden some of those inclusions as to what's an acceptable standard. But that consideration of the risk also needs to be brought into who we've got for that desirable.
So we don't have a actually locked in.
I have one, but
right.
if I want to adjust it, I believe it has to go through a MRSA process.
So there is a minimum standard.
Yes.
Which is certificate 3?
Previously what we've written and what is in here is certificate 3 or higher in community development, engagement or public safety and or equivalent experience in working directly with community in a relevant field. So it could include health, people with a health background. It could be people with a law enforcement background. So I don't imagine that would be too hard to make some minor adjustments to that and have it re-nurse it. Just a little bit of extra wording perhaps.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, Councillor Dusher, you're next.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the officers. The fact for me is this, that this report has come to us from professional people, as we have many times have said, and I respect that. And not only that, but we have also the Small Business Association and also the police who have had an input in this, and therefore this report. So I think we should see it seriously, that it has come from a good place with good intentions. And I want to recommend the staff, for doing this, because you have heard the community, you have heard the writing on the wall, and therefore you have taken some action and have been creative in the way we can now utilize people within the system, as it were, staff, and not spend any extra money. So I think it's a valuable thing for us to look at. Point number 2, I do take into account, the points that have been made, and I think there are some serious points that have been raised that we need to debate that. And it is, again, as I say, it is healthy. It is mature to have these debates and to go through it. It's not, for me, it's not wasting time. It's me listening to other people's point of view and then saying, yeah, there is validity in what they're saying. So I don't want to repeat those points, but I think there are some important concerns made. But we can't rubbish this totally, I think. There are some good points. Therefore, I'm saying, is it possible for us, instead of going 3 years, just do a trial of 1 year, or is that not possible because of the points that have been raised by others opposing this due to, either lacking authority with regards to their risk, partnership, and many other points raised. I make those points. Thank you.
Look, it'll be fairly tough to recruit staff for a year. I think that would be the short answer to that.
So I was wondering, because we're not recruiting, it's within.
No, you're recruiting.
We're recruiting.
Oh, okay.
They've got the employees.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Okay, right, so I've got you down as well now, Councillor Lobo. We're going to have to wrap this up fairly soon, so I've got Deputy Lord Mayor Sherlock. I've got, can't read my writing. Okay. Oh, sorry, no, before that.
No, that is.
What have I done to myself?
I think it was me.
It's you, it's you, sorry. Oh my goodness. Yes, I've got Councillor Elliott, and then Councillor Harvey, and then Councillor Loberger, and then we might call it quits at that, if that's all right. Yeah, I've got Councillor Short next, actually, it's fine. Just making sure. So we'll just draw the line there if that's okay. So, Deputy Lord Mayor, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for that. It was relatively thorough, in my opinion. I do especially like the fact that you popped in the routine activity theory. I thought that was quite clever, and I think if reading that theory, the basis and the foundation upon which this design is built is really great, and having that educate and engage focus. I do want to highlight that I understand some of the concerns that are around the table, and quite valid concerns, and maybe before it comes to council some of those things can be addressed, particularly around a recruitment position description in terms of crucial aspects such as, is the individual from a social worker or psychology background, who are we actually going to, the external individual that will provide trauma-informed training, because that is so pertinent to those aspects that may create more depth and understanding around the position and how the individuals will actually be trained. I do like the idea that this is a stepping stone for a co-response, because as you say, we can't go into that co-response as yet, but maybe this is that just that little platform that we need to be able to gather evidence and data to then go, hey, we can actually do this together now. And so I do see it almost as a data sourcing opportunity as well, for what is available and what we need further. And the prime concern, I think, as everybody has around the table, is of the individuals who will actually be employed into this role. So I look forward to what comes next, I think, in terms of the information that's been provided to you today, and those things that you'll sort of expand out from some of the suggestions made tonight. And thank you.
Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. I acknowledge and my view when we previously spoke around this was that we either choose a team and go with it, like whether it's like a Salvation Army sort of social work approach or police. I've had more of a closer look at that, and I'm prepared to give this hybrid model a go, but on some sort of conditions. That for me to be comfortable would definitely have to be in a true trial sense. Like I think 1 year wouldn't be enough, 2 years would probably be just enough, 3 years I could be convinced, and it would probably work well from better from a recruitment candidate pool perspective. But it would need to be that there are clear KPIs that the program does not continue after the 2 or 3 year mark unless we see a reduction in A, B and C, or an increase in A, B and C. Even if it's only 2 or 3 metrics, and if it's around, even if it's around the business perceptions of safety. Business perception of safety on day 0 is 70% safe, and then 3 years down the track, there's an 85% sense of safety. That would, for me, would warrant it, because comparatively it is a small investment compared to what we spend other money on, 300,000 odd. And I think it would money well spent to buy that confidence, given our job in terms of, guardians, for lack of a better word, of the city. I would much prefer that our team has a direct line to the cops, because I think there has to be much more of an advantage for us investing this money. So there must be another way for us to get a direct line but still get the data capture to happen. And that might be something that's implemented in 6 months' time. And I know Inspector Tui didn't rule it out, but he also didn't rule it in. But I think that's something that would need to happen. Just because I've had other conversations with Ty and Ben offline about this, I do know that by funding this, we would get more resources into the CCTV manning, which is a good thing. Yes to the training, and obviously would have the worker safety and workers' comp risks that go with that. But this would definitely be a backseat position, an observer position, unless that, based on their own reading of the safety of the situation. What I wouldn't want this to turn into, and why I'm adamant that it would have to be a proper trial, is that we don't have staff on the street who end up just walking around chatting to their shows or talking to the shopkeepers, and they're like just bitching about shoplifting and nothing's actually changing. Like, It has to be more than a sympathetic ear and a friend to whoever. There has to be some tangible outcomes with it. For some reason, I can't find the PD in mine. I can't find a reference to it being a trial. And obviously HR have gone through whatever they will, not only in terms of the job design, but in terms of the essential qualifications. The other thing it would have to be is, yes, while it's a trial, it would be firstly from Monday to Friday business hours. We would have to have a longer term plan that if it's made permanent, that this is a 7-day a week, you know, like 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. sort of job. That it's a much more robust program. But the deal breaker would be to trial or not to trial. It must be a trial with strict benchmarks, because we have too many trials that aren't genuine, and this would have to be one. And that the staff are very clearly know what is their role and what is not their role. So they're not put at risk. But I'm prepared to give this hybrid a go. Also because I like the way you did the day-to-day work, what their day might entail, because there's other stuff that, other work that we should be doing that we're probably not getting to, whether it's around compliance and smoking and, for example, I would hope that this sort of role, if they were to see even small things like bins overflowing in Wellington Court, they'd let the team know. If they would let the team know about graffiti, or so it's not just all of those things. They really are paid to be our eyes out there, helping to make the city more, not only safer, but more presentable as well. So a really broad role, but if it can work, I think it could work really well.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thanks, Chair. When will this come to Council?
We'll need to consider that, obviously, the feedback that we've received tonight, so I couldn't sit here and tell you that right now, so obviously there's a fair bit to work through.
Yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, well, we've had calls for a long time, Chair, for better attention to safety and crime in the city, and this is the response we've come up with. So I'm really conscious that businesses in the city, as Edwin spoke about, are concerned with what's going on. They've had issues for really quite a long time. So I'm happy to support this approach and see how it works, how effective it might be in the future. But it's also just treating the symptoms rather than the causes of these problems, which is back in the home, back in the schools, back outside Hobart where people come from. So there's a lot of work to be done across agencies, across levels of government to improve this situation. But having eyes and ears in the city, having people who are available for others to report to others to inform about things going on in the city, I think is important. You can't see everything everywhere, but having several people in the city that are recognised and build relationships with businesses and build relationships with people who come into the city, I think is a positive thing. And it takes time to build those relationships, and it takes the right skills. But over time, those relationships, I think, will occur. And we could end up with a really effective methodology for having eyes and ears and relationship building within Hobart that can benefit businesses and also help to, eliminate some of the problems we've had over time. But like a 3-year period, I think is absolutely essential. I don't think we could achieve very much in a shorter period. And the people in these roles will develop in those roles. I'm hoping they all come to the party with skills already, but the right people will learn quickly about how to deal with things in the city. I've got someone in mind who would make a perfect person to do this because of their relationship building skills, But I'm sure we'll find the right candidates who are dedicated to this task and are not just pseudo-policing, but also community builders. And that's where I'd like to see this head. And it's not just about the confrontational people they might engage with, but the people who are moderates, the people who are just pushing the boundaries or testing the limits, who you can have an impact on. Those harder people, it's much more challenging, and that's where your police force is really important. But it's also important to have witnesses for these things who are confident, and witnesses who can record what happens in the city and be able to report on these things, but deter others who are at the lower end of offending. So I think this is a good opportunity. So thanks for the presentation today. We'll discuss it all again in a month or two whenever it comes to council. So we'll go around the table again with the same conversations. but I support what you're attempting to achieve here because I think it's valuable to the city.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very, very quick. I just wanted to provide some commentary around the name of these workers. I can see that that's been discussed at 3.34 in the report, and I'm glad that that's the case. I think the key here is just to avoid the word officer. And I do like you've got Safe City Liaison Team. It seems pretty good to me. Or Safer City, or Safer Hobart, but the liaison team bit, and then they're just members of the team, and they don't have to be officers. I do think that was worth thinking about, so thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you so much for that workshop, Element. That was finally dealt with. So now we'll move back in the agenda to 6.1, which is to reports, where we have a motion here. I need someone to read the motion here. Yeah. So there's a recommendation for a motion. The council meeting be scheduled to be held at 4 o'clock. To be the February meeting that would be normally held at 4 to be moved to 5:15. But I need someone to move that motion. So I've got Councillor Harvey and seconded by Deputy Lord Mayor.
Don't need
a second. Sorry. Yeah. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Thank you. The motion is carried. Okay, so now we have 6.2, Short Stay Levy Bill 2025.
I'm declaring interest in this one.
Thank you.
Forgot it earlier.
Thank you. Okay, so who's going to put the motion?
I'm happy to move the
Happy to
opposite
move the motion?
recommendation. I'm happy with the submission.
Okay, are there any speakers for or against? So we've got then anybody else? Yes. No. Okay, so I'll go with that for the moment. Would you like to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad that we put this together, and I just wanted to thank the staff for the work that's been done on it, and to let them know that I entirely agree with their recommendation about where the money that's raised by this levy bill should go. I note that in Victoria, the money raised by a very similar levy bill goes straight to Homes Victoria to build public housing and maintain and upgrade existing public housing. That is clearly the best place for this income to go. Putting it yet again into demand side incentives will simply push prices up and squeeze out people unnecessarily. So I'm really glad that that's the conclusion the staff came to. It's the same conclusion I came to, and it's because it's sensible. So I do support that. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
And Councillor Dutton.
Thank you very much, Chair. Once again, I was going to make the same point that's been made already, and then I have just one question. The levy is 5%, and I just wanted to know what was the rationale behind the government's 5%, and why can't we recommend higher?
Well, through you, Chair, there's nothing in the consultation paper which indicates that figure. One of the jurisdictions does have a higher figure, so I'm not able to assist you any further with that. We could include something in our submission suggesting that it's higher. I guess that would then potentially balance out some of the other points that we've made about driving.
I would, want to suggest 6%, but again, that is debatable. But then I was just thinking, why 5% because that's Canberra and 7.5 in Victoria. So that's only a suggestion.
Councillor Dutton, are you proposing an amendment? No?
I'll just make that point. Thank you.
Okay, is there anything further from anybody else? No? So, sorry, yes?
Sorry, that was
I didn't see you. Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to say really great job on this in terms of having that balanced approach of why the levy needs to actually have a direct account, that it's going into a place that we can actually go, can it be directed in various different ways, and the solid arguments and rationale that you put behind it. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else at all? No? So I'll put this motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Thank you. Motion carried.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going back to workshop. Oh, thank you. Did you? So up to 7.2. Okay, so 7.2, the Mount Nelson Local Area Mobility Plan. We have a report.
Thank you, Chair. Most of you will be familiar with Dan. You may not be as familiar with Thiago. He's part of Dan's team, and he's going to be the one that takes us through the outcomes of the engagement for the Mount Nelson Lab and some of the issues that you will need to think about.
Nice to meet you all. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Oh, yeah. So the Mount Nelson Lab is the fourth one that we are delivering. There was the Battery Point 1, Northern Suburbs, West Hobart, and then we got this one. As you might know, it's just a local area mobility plan where we focus on streets and what people actually want done in their area. And once, if the plan is approved, then we have 10 years to deliver the projects that we are proposing. The project, the Mount Nelson Lab, aligns with the Hobart Transport Strategy that was approved in 2024. Action 29 that actually proposed to develop local area mobility plans, and at the same time we are developing the school access travel plan for Mount Nelson Primary. The school access travel plan for Mount Nelson will be delivered together with Albury Street and Lena Valley Primary, and we are targeting to have all of them finalized around May. Right now we just engage with the school, so we're trying to see how involved the schools actually want to get so we can deliver the plans. The engagement process, there was a stage one, the consultation that was through August and September. We had 85 people contributed with 386 pins. We had a map where people could go to the map and comment about anything that they think, if they like something, if they don't like, what they would like to change. There was 2,000 postcards delivered through in the two stages. The second stage, we also had a survey, and there were 61 respondents to the survey. 94 of the respondents, they were actually residents of Mount Nelson, and we delivered 1,000 postcards on stage one, and another 1,000 on stage two. The engagement, the workshops that we had, they were both held at the Sustainability Learning Center, and we had 15 people in each workshop. As usually with this type of survey, unfortunately we have overrepresentation of people over 40 years old and a very small representation of young people. But lots of people, the majority of the people that we talked and that we listened to, they're really keen on more options around Mount Nelson, especially for walking. The overall feedback, we had 61, just the next one. I need my glasses. We had 61% of support, of strongly support, and only 13% opposing or strongly opposing to the lab, the draft one that was available on the website throughout December and January. 79% of the respondents pointed out that what they're really keen is more footpaths and safe walking areas for them. I know that all of you might be familiar with Mount Nelson, but I was myself delivering the postcards and walking over there without footpath when you have buses going 2-3 meters away from you and drivers going a bit fast as well. It's not really the most comfortable place to walk. We are also proposing a 40-kilometer speed area in Mount Nelson to align with our CBD, with Battery Point, and with West Hobart one that we apply now with the DSG. And for the wide area, the 40 wide area, we have 47% support and 31% oppose. There was lots of people talking about speeds in Mount Nelson and complaining about high speed, especially on the bands. And we did some surveys, and I'm going to talk about that in the later stage here. The two main priorities that were pointed out were close to the signal station. Lots of people walk there. It's an area where people love to walk, and they walk their dogs, especially from the Oval to the signal station. And as you might be familiar, there is no footpath there, so pedestrians are really exposed. Some areas there, they are a bit wider, which kind of encourages people drivers to go a bit faster. I mean, faster compared to the 40 that we are proposing. And so that would be like an area that we need to target with a bit more care when the 40 it's installed, if it's installed. We divided the overview in three main themes, which was a connected walking network, safer street, and improved transport choices. And with the actions, we divided in four different actions. Safer intersections and crossings, which was an issue that we found out. Lots of intersections in Mount Nelson, they're very wide, and pedestrians feel really exposed there. As I mentioned before, new and upgraded footpath, and that was the main request from the residents. And there's traffic calming that we identified opportunity to reinforce line marking on the bands and traffic calming on Ryalana Road. And also, there was something that was mentioned very, very often. It's like the Mount Nelson residents, they really want to explore a bit more the track and trail links. And came to our attention that some of the tracks are not well signalized, and people are not really familiar what to do, so it's something that we can improve as well. We are proposing some changes there, and these actions actually, they're going to work in conjunction with the parks team. So the location and specific actions, I already mentioned the four types. Action 7, it's a Nelson Road pedestrian separation, something similar that we already have in Mount Nelson, just after the Oval, if you're walking towards the signal station. And we are proposing to increase that separation so pedestrians feel a bit safer walking towards the signal station. Another thing that was mentioned that we are actually proposing as well is revisit the Mount Nelson steps. There were some complaints about the steps not being compliant and people not using because the steps have different heights, and so something that we can reassess as well. With the area-wide connection, as I mentioned previously, we are just kind of trying to start something similar to what we have at the CBD, Battery Point, West Hobart. And the support, as I mentioned before, was pretty high, like 47% support, and there was 31% opposition, if I'm not mistaken. During our conversations in Mount Nelson, even people that were not supported at the initial, after the workshop, they could understand the reasons why we are proposing this. Consider if there's a place in Hobart that pedestrians are more exposed than Mount Nelson, I'm not really aware of that. Because lots of places there, they don't have footpath, and pedestrians need to share the traffic with vehicles. The current speeds in Mount Nelson, we have the surveys, and if you look at the picture there, the figure on the left, on the bends, it's really, really hard for you to drive over 40. Unless you are a Formula One driver, you're gonna be doing below 40. And the average speeds there that we got is like 47, 48, 47 in some sections that are close to the school. Interesting to see that when you are at the bottom of Mount Nelson, and if you want to use the bends, or if you are on the bottom of Mount Nelson, and if you want to use Proctor's Road to get to the Mount Nelson store, you're actually going to have the same time to get there. If you use the bends, or if you go to Proctor's Road, you're going to spend exactly the same time. As I said, the one in pink there, the two sections there, which is close to the oval and towards the signal station, is where the speeds really increase. That increase is due to the road being a bit wider, and there's pole line markings a bit better now, but like what I mean pole line mark, we don't have like the side, so if we can increase the line marking there and make the impression that it's a bit narrow, we probably want to decrease the speeds that we have. On the right-hand side there, there's a table there that I put. It's just like, I missed something there, but it's just the time, how it's going to change if you're driving from Mount Nelson store to the signal station. So if you drive on a 30-kilometer speed average, it's going to take you 4 minutes and 12 seconds. If you drive at 40, it's going to take 3 minutes and 9 seconds. If you drive at 50, it's going to take you 2 minutes and 31 seconds. So it's 29 plus 9, a 38-second difference if you reduce from 50 to 40. The next, this I think is the most important thing that we can say. Why a 40-kilometer zone? Other cities in the world, they are adopting not even 40, they're going down to 30. We have examples in Melbourne, we have examples in the areas of Sydney as well, and in Europe, it's pretty much every major city now they're adopting 30 kilometers an hour for the urban area. As you can see in the picture there, the chances of surviving when you go down from 50 to 40 increases a lot. But when you compare 50 kilometers an hour to 30 kilometers an hour, then you have a huge, huge, huge difference of survival rate. So we're not really pushing or we're not reinventing a wheel. We're just trying to align something that was part of the strategy that was approved in 2024. And the residents are supportive. Of course, like everything else these days, there will be opposition and people will be a bit voicey about. But so far in our engagement and all that, that was not the case. As we are following the news, as we know, last year was a pretty bad year for Tasmania, with 8.2 deaths per 100 people, putting us on the first spot, the first state for casualties. And there was an increase of 51% comparing to the previous year. The trend is particularly concerning for pedestrians. As a pedestrian, you are very, very exposed, as we know. And 3/4 of all accidents with casualties, they happen in areas that are 60 kilometers per hour speed limit or below that. So decreasing the speed, especially in Mount Nelson, where we have very, very high exposure, it's really, really important. Compliance was mentioned more than once. We are changing the speeds, but what about compliance? That's a problem that we all know that we have in Hobart. I moved from Queensland to here, and you don't see many police officers here, you don't see people being pulled out, and if we increase compliance, of course we're going to increase. If we increase the presence of police, we're going to increase compliance, but we got to start somewhere. We cannot keep waiting for compliance to be there for us to do something about the pedestrians there in Mount Nelson. So this is another the time difference to compare when driving like 1 kilometers or 3.5 kilometers. Usually the average speed when you are in a 40 zone, of course, is not 40, it's a bit low. Mount Nelson probably will be more closer to 40 than actually that 23.7, considering if you exclude the bends, if you just consider the area from Mount Nelson store to the signal station. But decreasing the speed over there is it's something that we really need to do to avoid this conflict with the pedestrians that are highly, highly exposed. Next steps, it's our workshop today. And the community report is being prepared, and then we're going to go to the council for endorsement in 2 weeks or next month, in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Okay, questions. I saw Councillor Posselt first, followed by
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Loberger, just to make sure I've got all the names. Just the two so far? Yep. Thank
I
you.
believe that Councillor Loberger and myself need to go. I think the police will be called in 12 minutes if I'm not at daycare. So I'm just going to go straight to feedback if that's okay. Thank you guys. Terrific. One of your best lamps so far, I think. I wanted to just point out that it was interesting reading the report that the alignment of crash data was consistent with the safety perception of the community, that where the crashes happen or where the community feel unsafe, which we quite commonly find when we actually go to look at this stuff. So it's not just perception, it's reality, because we're also seeing the crashes. On feedback, I understand that in the 80s they tried to do a footpath to the signal station, and local residents organised a petition to petition against that, which is quite an interesting part of history. I just wanted to put forward the notion that not all footpaths are equal, that we have one of the most pedestrian used routes in all of Hobart is the Hobart Rivulet, and it's not paved. So, Mount Nelson, in terms of keeping with its bush-like setting, we can run footpaths there if they're up on the bank that are crushed granite instead of cement, and it will be much cheaper for us. Probably well received, as equally well received, if not better received, and only really limit a very small number of people from using it, because you can still get wheelchairs and walkers on a regular surface. So please do consider some of those really subtle differences from Mount Nelson. The intersection narrowing, and I really loved the commentary of the check vehicle, which I hadn't seen and wasn't educated to before, or the history of that. But that 8.8 metre long check vehicle commentary was so helpful for understanding why intersections have been designed the way they are and how we're changing that. So big tick there. The 60-50-40 on Olinda Grove, I think is a really good idea, but we need to make sure that we give visual cues as well as signposting, as you know, to indicate that it's getting slower and slower. And at the 40 km/h, I'd really love to see a welcome to Mount Nelson Gardens, significant narrowing. This is a 40 km/h suburb. So really, and you can do it beautifully with bushland, with the bushland team to achieve that. But if we just sign it, I don't reckon you'll get the compliance with the width of the road, especially noting where the high speeds were around the oval. And I would bring up the oval as well as the crossings proposed. There's no Wombat crossings proposed, is that correct?
No. Yeah, we're talking function, we're not talking form.
Understand. But no, I'm moving forward to form though. I think that it would be valuable to have a Wombat crossing at the store and a Wombat crossing at the oval. Lots of kids want to get from school to the oval, school to the shop to the oval, which requires 2 road crossings. And I think that speaks to the 40 km/h zone and more pedestrian priority crossings where possible. I'm almost done. The example from Coles Bay, haven't seen it before. Ripper, love that for a constrained road corridor. So I did put in my notes that the idea of using the same design on the bends where possible to give a visual narrowing of the roadway and provide dedicated space, even though it's sort of semi-shared, is possible. And I'll just check if I've got anything else. But the only problem with that is the the tendency for Mount Nelson residents to park on the existing unpainted verge where pedestrians like to walk, so parking compliance with this could be an issue to consider. The final 2 points. Is there an idea of what the lighting is like on the steps? It's referenced, the steps are referenced, but I would suggest that lighting the steps would be, should be part of that for perceived safety, given there's no, I don't think there's any passive surveillance in those stairs at all. And the final one for me, which is speaking to the priorities that the community brought to us as their highest priorities. I noticed that a Linda Grove footpath and the crossing to the Oval are both listed as long-term projects. I'd like to see that change to medium-term, given that they were 2 of the highest priorities. I understand they're more complex projects. I just don't want to see us getting to another term of council. Maybe we have to change staff 5 years later, still no footpath. So I'd really love to see those.
Which were the 2, sorry?
A Linda Grove footpath and the crossing to the Oval. I'd really love to see them brought from long-term to medium. But thank you. As I said, I think it's one of your best bits of work so far. So well done, team. Appreciate your work.
Thank you. Councillor Lohberger.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor Possett's knocked a few of mine off, so I'll be very quick. Like Councillor Possett, door knocked up around there, so I've spoken to a lot of residents. And he was right about the footpath. They actively campaigned against a footpath some years ago because they thought too many people would be there, I believe. But what I wanted to talk about specifically was the beds. Sounds to me like you had been on there, and letterboxing and door knocking on the beds was incredibly, you had to keep your wits about you, that's for sure. There really is not much space there. Is there any scope for improving pedestrian safety down the beds, given how difficult a road it is?
So that is a challenging one because obviously it's constrained space, so we've got to be really careful. We don't want to turn, so it's one of those balances too. You don't want to turn what makes Mount Nelson special too, which is its sort of bush setting. So we've got to be really careful. We went into this, really realistic as to what we can and can't do. So where there is interactions, you want to make them feel as safe.
I do think up around the college.
So it's that balance.
The primary school, the college, and the shop, and the other there in all areas. But I just wanted to check.
Not without sort of major engineering solutions. To wire, then you start to
or something. Yeah. Great, but yeah, excellent piece of work, really comprehensive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commentary? I just had one question.
Yeah.
Having lived and worked in the area myself, this area needs to be designed so that 2 buses can go past each other. That's still, with all this talk about narrowing up, my first thought was, that's great, but we've still got to get 2 buses capable of passing each other. We can't judge when that'll be in that area, but we need to know that that's still going to be possible. That's still basically being built into the system.
Always Australian standards, which allow for 2 buses to pass.
Yeah, no, that's good. That was the only question I particularly had. So I'm grateful it's been done. Thank you. Are there any other questions or commentary on this workshop?
Was there any comments around wildlife protection?
There was. There was. Lots of Mount Nelson community there, they're pretty worried about, they all worry about the number of that and reducing the speeds and increasing the number of signs, especially for tourists that are not familiar with the area there, that a potential to increase that.
I did notice the map there of the wildlife with the red dots. That would be like one night, I imagine.
Reported. So again, no, it's not one night, but yes. Funnily enough, though, it's a similar place where animals feel unsafe as where people feel safe. So by improving certain locations, by lowering the speeds, surveyed the animals. No, we didn't survey the animals, but if you look at the data points, they're similar. So that's really encouraging.
And this might be a big ask, but all over the world, there's wildlife tunnels, overpasses, nets through trees, all sorts of things that are being developed for wildlife to be able to pass safely over roads, under roads. Is this something, if we're going to be doing significant works, could occur?
Certainly not. It hasn't been on our radar for this area. It can't be explored. I know they're doing some, at the state, they're looking at some of the Tassie devils sort of policing, which is not just the devils, but also broader wildlife. So there's certainly work going on in that space, less intrusive, less expensive. because tunnels and things like that, being involved in the Bruny Island Neck project, very expensive. Important, very expensive, so it needs to be balanced.
But if there's work being done and you're digging up a road, and you put a culvert under the road, it's not going to fill up with mud and slurry, then it's something to consider. And we haven't raised this before in Hobart, but it's happening all over the place, and I'm familiar with the neck as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other commentary tonight? No? Oh, sorry. I did miss you. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I was just wondering, was there a lot of commentary around flooding or water?
There was one particular stormwater engineer that came to the workshop, and she mentioned, she raised that, but that was not really the scope of our work, so, yeah.
Right, so there was not much in the surveys or anything that you did
No.
around water and...
Well, we know that it's an issue, and there are lots of areas there that they don't have proper stormwater service and all that, and it's a common issue that there were some bundles that were built a few years ago to avoid the waters going to the houses, especially on the bands. But yeah, there is an issue that needs to be tackled by another team in our council. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments? No? Okay, thank you. We will move on. I believe that questions without notice.
Thank you.
Are there any questions about notice tonight? No? Okay, then we'll move to the closed portion of the meeting.